The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors: Woodland Stud, Brecon Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred, Stonewall Stud, the clubs Alexandra Park, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, Garrard's Horse and Hound, and IRT. It's your horse and our passion. Hi everyone, welcome into another edition of your Box Seat. Of course, a strange time once again in New Zealand over the last 7 days. Michael Guerin will get to the sales shortly, but in this COVID world, once again we've found that things can change rather quickly.
Yeah, they can. Greg, a big hi to you and to everybody watching on a Friday or Thursday if you're watching us online. Strange week indeed, in a week that saw the 3/4 of the sales postponed, of course, from last Monday through till Wednesday. We were expecting to be selling in Christchurch. That's been bounced back to the Monday coming up. So the good news is, Greg, of course, they are going ahead. On the racing front, obviously anywhere south of the Bombays, we're back to level 1 around the country. So all racing returns to absolute normal as it would have been a week ago. And for those going to Alexandra Park tomorrow night, there's going to be limitations on who can go. There's 100 spots there for the public, Greg. They'll be put into a separate room. They'll be emailed via a database by the Auckland Trotting Club. And then the owners, trainers and their families will be emailed via a different database to be put in a separate room. So if you're watching this as a member of the public, you can go to Alexandra Park on Friday night. There's no issues there. You just need to contact the club. You can always ring them, of course. Register your name and you have to go in through a certain entry point, stay in that single room, which will be the Tasman room if you're a member of the public, and you have to leave via the same entry point. You can't go down and see the horses. You can't have any interaction with the horse people. But Greg, considering the week we've had and all the obstacles we faced on the racing front, that's pretty darn good. It hasn't really hurt the industry too much. On the sales front, of course, we had that bounce back from heading to Christchurch last Monday to this Monday. Again, Greg, I don't think it hurts anybody too much. It would have a lot more with Australians on the ground. If they were here buying, they wouldn't have stayed a week. They would have had to go home. So had that been the case, I think you could have seen a dip in potential prices. Everybody who would have been going to last Monday, Greg, at Christchurch can almost certainly go this Monday at Christchurch and into Tuesday and Wednesday. So while there's more important things in life than harness racing, from a COVID-affected point, Greg, it's probably not been too bad for our industry.
No, and once again, another great example of how everyone bandies around in times of need. And of course, a number of horses, I think it was close to 70 coming up from Southland, needed their horses placed somewhere because they couldn't just stay at the sale ground. So yeah, big thank you to all of those who got in behind, particularly the southern horses, and helped them out there. Just while we're talking about racing, I know in your area, Ellerslie, you can touch on that. It's a different code, but they do race on Saturday, and it's a very important day, being the Avondale Guineas.
Yeah, I think a lot of trainers from the Waikato are really happy that the meeting is going to Ellerslie because they want to spin around right-handed under pressure leading into not only the Derby, of course, but the Auckland Cup. So the two races this Saturday, big lead-ins there. They have a slightly different situation. The public can't go to Ellerslie. So if you're watching this and you're a galloping fan, you can't just rock up to Ellerslie on Saturday. They'll invite their members, limited to 100 people, Greg, so the first in, first served from their database there. And then they'll also have the opportunity for owners to go into the main stand, the big white stand. And again, that's first in, first served. What Paul Wilcox from Ellerslie has said is, look, if you're going to come along and watch your horse in race 2, if you don't feel like hanging around for the day, can you come in, do your piece, watch your horse, and then shoot away, because we can fit some other owners in later in the day. So I had experience, Greg, when I had a horse racing at Ellerslie back in about September under similar circumstances. And what really surprised me is most people didn't take the opportunity to go. It was just too tricky for them. They didn't want to go under those circumstances. It's not quite as social. You can't go see your jockey and your trainer. So harness racing's got away with that a lot better, and I think they handled things really well. I have to say big kudos to Gary Woodham, the new boss of Harness Racing New Zealand. We've got an interview with him coming up later on. He was straight on the phone with New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred guys on Sunday night. Even though that's not directly under his control, he was talking to them. People were moving and shaking stuff. They got the Manawa 2 meeting at Tuesday underway and completed in a very organised manner, Greg. I think Harness Racing New Zealand's work this week under circumstances where they didn't really know what to expect, was, from what I could see, top class.
Yep, very much so, Michael. Let's get into this yearling sale from Sunday. And of course, the top lot was lot 122. We'll touch on that in a moment. But here's the facts out of the day. Over $5 million, 50,000 average, a massive clearance rate of 82%. That's world class. And of course, a number of these horses to be retained here in New Zealand, which has to be a good thing.
That's the crucial factor, particularly these fillies, because they're the ongoing branches of the families Greg will be selling for the next couple of decades. We'll get back to the overall sales results shortly, but let's look at the top lot, as you said, by Bettor's Delight out of Major Reality, who of course won the WA Oaks, but is the sister to both Ultimate Sniper and Ultimate Machete. This is really current, important blood. Stonewall Stud are huge contributors to this industry. They've got a red-hot broodmare band, and now they have the big girl of the sales 2021 to add to that.
I'm at 300 now, at 300 for an out here at Karaka now, at 300,000 on a now. I'm at 300 here, at 300,000. Well, she's had her time now. At 300 I sell her. I'll take 10. I'll take 10, James, at 300, but she's had her time. At 300 now, at 300,000 for her here, at 300,000, last call now, at 300,000, I sell her, all done for a 10, one more. She goes, I sell her for 300,000.
And the hammer came down on her. Congratulations to Logan Hollis and Shane Robertson, their equine services as well. Logan leading the filly round, and he had a rather large smile on his face, didn't he? As I'm sure it'd be pretty hard to wipe that off all week. Congratulations to them and to Stonewall Stud. The top 10 lots, we want to highlight those for you, Michael. Headed up by that filly, of course. Lincoln Farms, well and truly to the form for once again buying lot 102, the Bettor's Delight Jesse's Cullen, which was well sought after. And then, of course, the top trotting lot going over the Tasman, the What the Hill well-known Regal Volo family.
Yeah, well, when we look at this page, obviously Bettor's Delight's the king. He's been the king for that long, it doesn't matter. He is undoubtedly the greatest stallion to have ever set foot in this country. That's just not up for negotiation. We all know that it's a privilege, if you care about standardbred breeding, to live in the same era as him. But What the Hill was the horse who arrived. He arrived at Karaka. He put his big foot down about lot 10 and lot 14, two of them back to back, and said, look, I'm here. I'm leaving really good trotters, better conformed than my dad and his dad before him, the great Muscles Yankee and Muscle Hill. Gee, Greg, you don't see this very often. Even for pacing stallions, you don't see those sort of numbers turn up for first season stallions. You just don't see it in harness racing. Definitely not trotters. Ken Brecken went all in on the What the Hills. He went very deep with that Regal Volo family, which is one of the most current families in Australasia. And he did something similar last year with Always Be Mickey, and it didn't pay off, and it gave him a bleeding nose. But this time it did pay off. So just goes to show you it's impossible to tell how those first season sire things are going to rock, Gregory, but there's never been one turn up in New Zealand with quite that impact. Admittedly, the sales are growing enormously, so the numbers are bigger, but when you have $190,000 for a trotter by a first season sire, well, Gregory, you struggle to get to $190,000 with first season galloping sires in this country, let alone paces, let alone trotters. So well done to Ken and Karen. They had a fantastic sale. They were strong with the trotters and with a couple of the paces, but with the averages, Greg, that's dream stuff. I first worked at these sales, I think 25 years ago. The average was like $8,000. And when it got to 10, people were like, oh wow, 10. When it got to 20, people were just staggered. The average at Karaka is 20. Greg, $50,000 last week. The average for fillies, $58,000. And most importantly, the majority of that bloodstock is staying in this country. Even the ones who are purchased to go to Australia, a lot of them will stay here originally. So absolutely nothing about that sale, Greg, to be negative about, apart from what happened 2 hours later, which may turn out to not be too much of a disaster for the industry, the 1 week delay to the Christchurch sale.
Yeah, exactly. So we can have a look at the top vendors and how that rolled out in terms of their sales. And of course, let's have a look at that right now for you. Brecon Farms, massive for them, $1.8 million. Pretty sure that'll be the first time they've gone past Woodlands, Michael?
Yeah, I think so, Greg. I think Woodlands have traditionally sort of sold, some higher priced colts. They had a 200,000, but they've tended to maybe cash in a few more colts. I spoke to Andrew Grierson about that on the preview show. He said, yeah, we're sort of half and half. We're selling half the stuff and we're keeping some of them. And so I don't think they emptied the jewel box at Woodlands. I think Brecons absolutely did after a poorish sale last year. But yeah, those two big giant pillars, Gregory, of the industry, enormous. I thought the preparers did a super job. I thought, as you said, Logan and Shane did a great job with theirs. Woodlands and Brecons you expect to do a good job because they're big, big businesses. You were there, Greg. What did you make of the sale? What did you make of the feel of the place? And not everything was a glory story. There were also lots which were going for that 20, 22, 15s, 18s type range. What did you make of all those things put together?
Yeah, look, I thought it was a fantastic sale and I expected it. There's clearly a bit of loose money around, money that would normally be spent on travel or luxury items, and therefore, purchasing a horse was probably more viable than maybe what it was 12 months ago for some people. So I thought overall an excellent sale. We moved to Christchurch, of course, Monday through Wednesday. Let's have a look at the details around that. Of course, you get it on the Freeview channel of 200. But we have the parade and sale of trotters there on Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday we have action as well. So plenty of information at NZB, nzstandardbred.co.nz, so make sure you get involved in that. Time for us to take a short break here on your box seat. As we go there, we've got the Commendators Day coming up for the Greyhounds. It is the 1st of March. I'm lucky enough to be heading along there myself. Can't wait. Welcome back into your box seat. Congratulations to Rural Games, not too far away. John Morrison nominated there in his section. The section last year won by Sarah O'Reilly, the young person section, and Denise and Murray Goldsworthy, who founded Kids Carts a long time ago now, about 20 odd years ago. They have been nominated as well, so good luck to them in their respective categories. Categories, of course, that we had Sarah O'Reilly and Ricky May successful last year. Massive night, Addington Raceway last Friday night, highlighted by the Group 1 Leithfield Station breeders. Let's go back and have a look at the winning performance of Watch Me Now. We'll get Matthew Cross to bring them home, and then hear from winning co-trainer and driver and Group 1 first time success for Kirsten Barclay.
Amazing Dream, a length and a half. Watch Me Now's trying hard. Then came Need You Now, 100 metres to go. Amazing Dream's out on her feet. Watch Me Now's coming. It's Amazing Dream. Watch Me Now for the upset. Comes up the inside. The Southerners, Watch Me Now and Kirsten Barclay get the Group 1 breeders, beating home Amazing Dream. A break off third, Need You Now.
Wow, that's got to be satisfying.
Oh, just a dream come true. Obviously I never thought I'd get the chance to drive a horse like her, and I've been lucky if you make elect, and to get a Group 1 is just, I'm happy now.
Yeah, wow, Group 1, number 1 for you with a horse that you absolutely adore.
Yeah, it's a bit bittersweet tonight because she is away to the States, so it was our last race, so the dream result, but yeah, there'll be a few tears later on tonight.
Right, you had to hatch a plan because you told me after the Premier Mares you'd need a barrier draw and a trail behind Amazing Dream. You didn't get the draw, but you got the trail. Yeah,
well, after talking to Tank throughout the week, and every time I looked at the race, I couldn't see us pulling back and being able to get into it, so we put the blinds back on her to get her out of the gate well, and I thought that's our one chance, is to get across to the top out of the gate, and then decide if we hand up or not after that. So yeah, we were able to do that, so just it couldn't have worked out better.
Right. You decided to hand up to Amazing Dream, but you're following one of the best mares in Australasia, and therefore you're in a great spot. You've run New Zealand record. Did you always think you were going to get there?
At the top of the straight, I was absolutely travelling, but obviously the class mare she dug in as well. So it wasn't until about halfway down the straight I thought I was going to get there. Like my mare was just giving so hard. So yeah, no, pretty exciting.
Right. I just ran into Nathan Williamson. He said something about we should be running these races at Ascot Park, save us travelling. But what a night for the Southerners!
Oh, just so proud. Like Nathan's team's flown, our team, like she's just done amazing. Like it just makes you really proud to be a Southerner and come up here, and for all the trainers that come up here, Alistair Black as well. Like everyone's been just, we're as good as anyone else, and yeah, Southland's a great place to bring them up.
And a great spot to stay. I know you thanked Brendan Hill last time, but he's done a massive job over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, look, it just couldn't be more thankful to Benny. Like, attention to detail is 100 to 1. There's not one thing gets unturned. You know, he's a big part of this, and I'm just incredibly grateful to him and to the staff at home and everyone that keeps everything ticking. You know, can't thank enough people really.
Yeah, brilliant performance, well trained, well driven, and down one of the best in Amazing Dream, the Auckland Cup winner, Michael, in 3:07.2, taking the record off the Orange Agent set in this race about 3 years ago. What a great battle it was. I don't want to take too much away from Amazing Dream. She was very brave as well, and there was 9 lengths back to Enchante, who placed in this race a couple of years ago. So a great battle for the mares, but the Southern mare came out on top.
It was awesome too. I mean, I'm enjoying seeing different people win these races this season. Just going back to Amazing Dream, because she was the favourite. It's easy to be disappointed by the fact she got beaten because you're taking $1.25 about her. But take the winner out of the race, she's won by 9 lengths and gone a national record, and people will be saying this is one of the greatest mares of all time. So the winner's just gone very, very good. She's obviously been rock hard fit. I'm thrilled for Tank and for Kirsten. I mean, as you heard Kirsten say, she didn't expect to get a Group 1. And these are good people who are good horse people, Greg, but they don't get the calibre of horses of some of the other people around the country. Now, we had that same conversation a few weeks ago when I was suggesting Nathan Williamson's as good a trainer as we have in the country. And a few people laughed at me about that. Nathan told me a few people laughed at him about it. But then he comes out and we're about to see beats the New Zealand Cup winner. There's some great horse people in Southland, and Southland's a part of the country very close to my heart, because when I was growing up in harness racing, we all knew about the fact that Cardigan Bay came from there, and at my era, Honk and Vision was coming through, and some of these other horses, and then Howard Bromack emerged, and those horses. I think it's really good, Greg, that the region is strong. It's a great export region, and I think now with the changes at the top of harness racing, that there's going to be more Southland trainers willing to attack Addington, because it's not quite as scary as it was. And I would have absolutely no qualms. Last week I bid on a yearling at the sales on Sunday, and I would have had no qualms sending it to Nathan or any other Southern trainer, because I think, Greg, that they do a super job there. For some reason the country feels smaller than it used to. So lots of good things about that. The only negative, Gregory, obviously, we have 3 Group 1 winning mares in the country. Beyond Words, gone. Watch Me Now, gone. Amazing Dream update for you. She is still under offer because of the COVID travel restrictions. The vet, that the people who are offering the money for Amazing Dream couldn't get their vet to Canterbury to vet her. But that examination now, we're changing levels again. I would suggest we'll go ahead Thursday, Friday, or at the latest Saturday. And I spoke to Jean Feast, Greg, and she said, yes, if she vets out well and the money stands up, she will be going. Which would mean all 3 Group 1 winning mares in the country over the last 2 months will be heading to North America. And that's not great for the industry.
No, it's not, and it is part of the area I touched on with Gary Wood, and that'll be in 2 parts later on today, and then on this show, and then on the following show next week. We'll get an update from the new boss of HRNZ. It is a concern, no question about that at all. Richest race on the night was the New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred Harness Million. Let's go back to the concluding stages of this one. Of course, the major talking point about the race was what happened to the Mark Jones pair, but let's get Matthew Cross to bring home this horse. Often Gone Too Good for the Dun combination.
120 to go, clear in the harness million for the 3-year-old fillies. Often Gone, John and Robert Dunn, they'll get the Quinella as well. Often Gone Too Good, with Grace home for second, has run the race of her life. Third Ivana, fourth to go by Kofi Magic.
So a very good performance from her, Michael, coming from the outside gate, of course, bred by the Williams and Gary and Kieran Woodham as well. They retained her, went through the sale, didn't get the money they wanted, so they bought her back and they've raced her. And of course, they've got a half-brother by Art Major Lot 382 to be sold at the Christchurch sale, but big thrill for them. La Rosa did what Safedra did one night at Melton, I think it was, and just did not want to score up at all. And Braveview Kelly worked its way to the lead early on and then rolled into a gallop. So that race changed complexion considerably early on.
Yeah, you couldn't believe Mark Jones could have two horses in the race, first and second favourites, and both of them gallop. La Rosa being piggy, that really surprised me. I didn't see that coming for her. Braveview Kelly, I think Ricky was driving her as aggressively as possible to keep tactical advantage, and I think he might have pulled the shortness and she rolled into a gallop. I don't know that, but it appeared to be that. Then of course she bounced back and won on Sunday, so all's well for her. I'm not sure they would have beaten the winner, Greg. The winner's gone a good time and won by a big margin. To come around the field and beat her would have taken a bit of doing, so really happy for Robert and John Dunn, and all the owners of course, because they're big spenders in the industry. But Robert and John are now stepping into this void which has been created at the top of harness racing. They won the premiership last year, they'll win it this year. They were buying up big on Sunday and they'll buy up big in Christchurch. And when you do go to the sales and you're aggressive, which is what you need to do, Greg, you want to get results to keep people retained in the industry. So I think it's a really good thing for the industry to see, as I said, some different winners last week. But while La Rosa galloped, I'm not sure, Greg, she just would have turned up and beaten that winner.
No, I think you're absolutely right there, but she is going north, talking to Mark Jones, so she'll have a crack at the Oaks. Let's continue on with our review of Addington Raceway. Pembroke Playboy downing the Cup winner, yes, in Self-Assured. We'll get Nathan Williamson's thoughts post-race. That's the fixer in front. It worked very hard. They ran a really good time. And in the end, it was another Southern victory, 3 on the bounce for Pembroke Playboy.
Pembroke Playboy, the Southerner, goes up to make it interesting with the Self-Assured. Self-Assured, Pembroke Playboy goes to him. Self-Assured, Pembroke Playboy, they hit the post. Pembroke Playboy by a half a head, beat Self-Assured. Third in the fixer.
It was a fact-finding mission at the Cup meeting, and he went fine. Tonight he went even better.
Yeah, he's just, you know, travelling's been a wee bit of his bugbear this far. Like he doesn't settle in that well away from home, but this is his second trip and he was a lot better this time. So I'm looking forward to sort of later on some of those feature races and getting him on the road a wee bit, doing a bit of tripping with him, and then, you know, that'll bode him well for the following season. But Rap tonight, obviously beat the Cup winner, is no mean feat, and, you know, I'm sure he's still got, you know, 6 or 12 months maturity on him. I'm sure he'll be better. So, no, absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, the Cup winner outside him and the Cup winner in front of him in the fixer as well. So he's had to beat 2 very good horses there. What are your plans? Is there a northern campaign? What are you actually thinking in the next 2 months?
Yeah, so he'll go home, and we've got the Northern Southern Cup back at home, so I can freshen him a little and set him for that, and he'll be back up here at Easter time, whether we take in the Easter Cup or there's the Superstars, which is a 4 and 5 year old race. But I'm planning on going to Auckland with him at this stage, just if he's still in the good form that he is now. I think he'll take on the Taylor Mile and the Messenger, and then he's got the Jewels to finish up the season. So he's got plenty to come up, but he's, you know, as I said, I think the tripping and the travelling will be the makings of him, you know, for next season.
Small field was always going to be a tactical race, and he was, again, very brave.
He was brave, you know, and he's another one that hasn't raced since the Flying Mile, you know, and he's only at 1 trial as well, so it was a big effort. The small fields are always tricky, and, you know, Easter Cup's next on the market for us, so that's where we head next. It's
a wee way off, so do you sort of back off him, or what do you do? I suppose you sit down with Mark initially and say, what do we do with him?
Yeah, that's right. It is a wee way off, and there's not really much in between that. So yeah, he might go to the water walker for a week, and we'll just give him a wee freshen up and press on after that.
And herein lies the challenge, Michael. You talk about these mares going overseas due to lack of opportunity and obviously a huge price tags being paid for them. But a horse like Self-Assured, so he's gone to the Cambridge Mile. He's had to wait 6 weeks to have another race, and now he has to wait another 6 weeks till he lines up in the Easter Cup. It's hardly ideal. I know that he could have been on an Australian campaign and that would have been slightly different, but yeah, it's not ideal to get our best horses on the racetrack in front of the public.
I've been saying it for years, Greg. We have too big a gap. The gap's a bigger problem after the Easter Cup. I'll get back to that in a second. Just an update on him, by the way. Gene Feast, who owns the horse, suggested to me he may go to Auckland to take on Copy That at the carnival up there, the Derby Carnival, which used to be their Cup week. So there might be a change of plans there if Gene gets her way. Just going back to the open class horses, we've had this ginormous gap between Easter and whenever you want to start the new season, which usually is about September, was a bit earlier last year because of COVID. We need to do something about that. And I've been saying for ages, and it's easy for me to say because it's not my money and I don't program races and therefore it's not my responsibility to make them fill out. But Greg, we need to have a free-for-all, you would think, at least every second week, which is guaranteed to be held. And say we're going to hold it for 25 and hold them. And hold them if 6 horses turn up. And if Self-Assured turns up and races Copy That at Auckland, there's only 4 horses in the race, it's easy again for me to say, but hold them. Hold the races. Because you're going to lose all these horses. The one thing I would say, the caveat around that is, this period between the Auckland Cup and the Easter Cup, I don't mind the fact there's minorish racing in that gap. Summer Cup is okay, Northern, Southern Cup, that sort of stuff, because traditionally the 3 or 4 best horses in the country wouldn't be here. They would be in Australia. They'd be going to the Miracle Mile, the Hunter Cup, the Ballarat Cup, the Miracle Mile Heats, which are $100,000, Greg. So at the absolute top level, I'm not worried we don't have any $100,000 races in that period because the best horses shouldn't be here, and it's only because of COVID that they are here. But I do think the bigger problem lies for those Star Galleria, Triple Weight, secondary open class horses who are really good horses. If we had a sustainable winter circuit for them, and that's cooperation between the clubs and the trainers. The trainers can't say we need these races, they're not turn up to them. And they've been doing that for years. They've been pointing the finger at the club because trainers always call the harness race in New Zealand they, and then they don't nominate their horse. So I get sick of that bullshit because it's all bullshit. They need to work symbiotically together. Irony of this week is, we get COVID, racing's worked really well together. The administrators and the trainers have worked really well to make stuff happen. But there seems to be this attitude that they just want to point fingers at each other and call everybody they. No one ever says anybody's name. It's just the they. And until that bullshit stops, this isn't going to be fixed. And yes, then we need to say, we're going to program these races. There's going to be a free-for-all every second week at Addington worth X amount of money. And then those second-tier open-class horses can fill up over the winter. Or Alexander Park, fill up over the winter. But if we keep doing this backwards and forwards, it's your fault, my fault. And if we keep putting these horses, which Alexander Park are doing, off ludicrous back marks, horses starting off 50 metres and 200 metre races, again, that's just rubbish. Let's just stop all that rubbish because if I own that horse, I'll be like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm sending my horse to Andy Gath. Yep. And that's an honest conversation about it, but no one seems to want to have it. There's just a lot of pointing of fingers. Everybody harness racing in New Zealand's called they, and then nothing ever happens.
Hopefully something will happen, and we're going to get a regular update as well from Harness Racing New Zealand from different people over the next few months, and one of those areas we can discuss with them is the open class ranks and what we can do about that. Right, let's leave that there for now, Michael. Thanks for your comments there. Move back to Addington Raceway, the premier meeting from last Friday night. It's all about faith. Yes, he won the Sire Stakes on the biggest day, New Zealand Cup Day. He returned to Addington Raceway and won again, but all the talk was about the horse widest on the track in the Nathan Williamson colours.
Skip 2.5 clear. Rock and Roll Rod, Brigazzo Mac and Cranbourne trying to run on, but it's all about faith. 3 or 4 clear. Brigazzo Mac's been brave with Rock and Roll Rod. It's all about faith, starting to knock up. Brigazzo Mac coming quickly. He's running out of time though. It's all about faith and a smart, fresh up win. Brigazzo Mac massive in second. Third, Rock and Roll Rod.
Well, that was an excellent racetrack return.
Yeah, it was, Greg. Yeah, really impressed with him. His work's been pretty good at home, and he had a nice trial last week, and to do that fresh up was a pretty big effort.
Brigazzo Mac got very close to you, but he was brave and the time was excellent, and now he heads north.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he'll hit it on a float next Friday, then we'll race in the Derby Prelude next week, and on the 26th, and forward to the Derby the following week.
Well, he just keeps stepping up.
Yeah, no, I was wrapped with him tonight. Greg, he did a bit of work and he was real game, so first trip away and that, and against the big boys, thrilled, yeah.
Right, he got very close to the Sires Stakes winner. That's going to give you a lot of confidence going forward. What's your pathway to the Diamond Creek New Zealand Derby now?
Yeah, well, he'll go home. He'll have a few easy days, just that this has been his first trip, and then we'll just sort of plan it back. I think there's some nice races through the end of March up here, you know, lead up sort of races, and then obviously the Vero Flying Stakes is about a fortnight before the Derby. So he won't be going north, he'll be staying here and targeting those races through and having a good crack at the New Zealand Derby. He's, you know, lovely horse, and that's sort of the race we really want to have a crack at.
Yeah, and he deserves a shot at that, and he's into $4 equal favourite for that, Michael. It's all about faith. They went 2:20, which was the fastest time of the night, 54-mile rate, so his racetrack return was also very good, but there was plenty to like about the runner-up.
It was a beautiful race. I really like the race. I like the intermediate grade racing at the moment. It seems to be more competitive than the open class racing. And I think the winner's an interesting horse. I'm not sure where he's going to end up in the grand lexicon of our horses. It's all about faith. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up in Australia one day, because he's such a speed horse. I'm not sure our longer distance racing is going to suit him as he gets older, but no doubt it'll suit Regazo Mac. It's a bit of a pinch to say he deserves to be favourite for the New Zealand Derby, because Krug's going okay, but I like the fact, Greg, that the Derby at Alexandra Park's in a couple of weeks, and I have no idea who's going to win. And I like the fact the Derby at Addington now, I have less idea who's going to win, Greg. I think that's good for harness racing. I think it's an interesting time, and when you go into the sales, thinking to yourself, that could be me in a couple of years, is pretty inspiring for people who want to ever buy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's go back to the Summer Trotting Cup there from Friday night as well. And Muscle Mountain hadn't been seen since Cup Day, when he was third, of course, in the New Zealand Trotting Free-for-All. He managed to slot into the trail, which was crucial, Michael. And as a result, he got up the passing lane and beat Vacation Hill, who pulled pretty hard in front. Good run from Dark Horse, again, the Williamson team to the fore. But this horse, Muscle Mountain, he's by Muscle Hill, of course. He's now won 9 of his 14 starts, Michael, and he's got to improve off the back of that.
You'd be absolutely stunned if he doesn't end up winning a Group 1 race. He ran third in one on Cup Day. He's a very good horse, big lumpy horse, so he's going to keep improving. Spoke to Greg Hope about him. He said, look, we have a lot of issues with him, whether it's his blood or his muscles. He just has a horse, has a lot of things go wrong with him. And you would hope he'll grow out of that, and therefore they'll be able to get the best out of him. They're going to try and space the races, so they might go 4- and 5-year-old championship. He was reluctant to go Anzac Cup and Rowe Cup, so maybe the Rowe Cup, Greg, and then the Jewels, because that gives them nice spacing of sort of a month per run. But yeah, I think he's a really good horse, and if he can get all those issues sorted out, he might be an even better horse. I thought there was enough to like about Vacation Hill, able to show the speed to lead in a race like that, Greg, and Midnight Dash was also pretty good too. Dark Horse, I'm not sure she's going to be a factor in the elite open class races, because she's an older mare now, but yeah, driven off the speed, she's always going to be a play's chance. Good race, Greg, but I think the winner, a Group 1 winner, in waiting for sure.
Yeah, and Greg and Nina Hope, excellent training performance there, and it just shows the advantage, of course, of training them on the beach, getting them to that almost fever pitch in a fresh condition. Braveview Kelly wasn't at her best in terms of her manners on Friday night, but a couple of days later, Michael, she turned up in a Neville heat and was able to win. While the sales were going on, the Mark Jones trained runner is now booked her spot in the final, and she did this quite nicely, albeit narrowly.
Yeah, this is one of the more unusual training performances I've seen for a while. I mean, horse lines up in a $150,000 race on Friday, gallops, loses all chance, turns up on Sunday, wins the heat of the Neville. It's a brave training thing for Mark to do, but also showed the sense that once she did gallop the other day, Ricky didn't chase the field. He was smart enough to know he was heading to his home track and got the job done. So, yeah, as I said, unusual stuff. But it worked out very well for her. Not so good for the punters on Friday. I'm not sure where all these fillies sit together, Greg, to be honest. I think Better Twist is the best of them. But again, like the Colts, I think there's plenty of moving parts to this crop.
Yeah, Darling Me, of course, the winner of heat number 1. We need to head across the Tasman with Garrards and take in some of the action from the weekend. So let's do that now. Let's head there and see Expensive Ego. Very, very good in the paleface. Adios has got a wideish draw. We'll touch on the chariot shortly, but he's a pretty smart animal, this.
Yeah, he's a good horse. He was trained by David Thorne, and he needed the water walker and the swimming at Belinda and Luke McCarthy. So he's had a few issues in his career. Big, strong sort of a horse. Smashed them on 150 here. A couple of the big names didn't qualify for the final out of this race, but then he went on and drew poorly in the final, as did Stylish Memphis. So they were the two favourites for the Chariots of Fire. That's at 11:42 this Saturday night. Both of them drew poorly, Greg, and it's going to make for a very interesting race. Here's Stylish Memphis. This was in the Mares race last week. This is a qualifier for the Ladyship Mile. Now, she's pulling to the outside because they used drivers' colours, not trainers' colours, in New South Wales. That's Jack Trainer, former New Zealander, of course. And that's him winning on Stylish Memphis, overpowering, no win, no feed. Good performance, Greg. So that qualified her for both the Chariots and the Ladyship, which is Saturday week. So she's having a great campaign already for Mark Jones and caretaker trainer Jack Trainer, but a little bit of a struggle for her this week from that wide draw. But she has shown she can be driven cold, and she's very backable each way at $11, Greg. Interesting race, the Chariots coming up. Horse who qualified in Southland, Boots Electric, could be the danger there, Greg. If you're having a bet the Chariots, well, up to 11:42 on Saturday night, Boots Electric might be the overs in the race. Won the Bonanza for A-Butt. Anthony drives Menangle beautifully, has the best draw of them, and most importantly has a lot of Menangle experience.
Yeah, well, I spoke to Mark Jones about Stylish Memphis. He said a little bit of a concern having to back up 3 weeks in a row, but he said it better not be a concern because she might back up 4 weeks in a row with the Ladyship. So, yeah, good luck to all the connections involved in this year's Chariots. Let's move on to Minstrel. Speaking of the Chariots, Minstrel's going to be there, formerly trained here in New Zealand, of course, by David and Catherine. But this was beating last week's winner, Magnificent Storm, who won the Classic, of course, at Group 1 level. But Minstrel did a good job here, and now he's doing an even better job. He's a Group 1 winner, Michael.
Yep, trained by the Bonds, who spend so much money on horses from New Zealand. He was a good horse. Yeah, we know that. He was a semi-open class horse in New Zealand, so not surprised to see him be a good horse over there. People know my views on WA form. A week ago, Magnificent Storm was a champion. Now Minstrel's the new champion. I get lukewarm on the whole thing from WA because the pool of horses is so small. That's not slagging the horse people. It's nothing to do with them. The pool of horses is so small that they have one or two good horses in each group, and the rest of them aren't much good, and we know that because we sold most of them to them. Minstrel's different from that. Minstrel is actually a good horse, and he could win the Chariots this week because it's not a superstar Chariot.
No, and he's about $5 if you want to take that chance. Tough Monarch, we know well, winner of the free-for-all here on Cup Day, and has been so very brave on a couple of New Zealand campaigns. Got the barrier draw to work with this week. Look, Majestic Man, he just keeps drawing to have tough runs, and he had another one, Michael.
Look, he did. He's been fantastic, Majestic Man, with absolutely no luck, as you said, Greg. The only time he got against the marker pegs, the entire time he's been in Australia, he won. But Tough Monarch was very brave there. He's been in lots of Barneys, lots of tracks, Alexandra Park, Addington, Menangle, Melton. He's been everywhere. And he did a super job here. Just a good, old, tough trotter for one of the good guys in harness racing, and Ricky Elchin. Majestic Man will clean them up, Greg, the first time he gets drawn to be on the marker pegs. But yeah, it's a campaign of what could have been for him.
Still been quite a lucrative one. I think he's around about $70,000, so still well worth doing. We're about to take a short break here on your box seat. On the other side, we'll hear from the boss of harness racing New Zealand, Gary Woodham, part one of a two-part interview that I did earlier in the week. Gary, 2 months into your current reign, your role as the CEO of Harness Racing New Zealand, and it's a dream job for you, isn't it?
It is the dream job, Greg. Lifetime as an adult around racing. So 1974, Rob Allen, you've all heard the story. Been breeding and owning for a number of years now, and it's my sport and my passion. So was looking forward to it, and it's to date, it's turned out to be everything I wanted it to be.
Yeah, a couple of months in, so I'm picking you've done a fair amount of listening.
Yep. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you know I can do a lot of talking. This ear is now blocked, full of problems, and that is the issue. A lot of people have talked to me, and they'll say they've talked to me, but there's a lot of problems, but not the cause or the resolution. So there becomes another problem. I'm not the golden boy, I'm not the silver bullet. I'm a person who's going to help everybody, but we need to get everybody harnessed around the solutions, not just the problems. And so they'll have to change those conversations really quickly for everybody.
Things have changed quickly even in the last few days, and I'll touch on the Auckland sales in a moment, but COVID's always going to be with us, and it certainly is at the present time, and I guess in so many respects we're in a great position to be able to handle it.
Oh, Greg, that's the number one thing. People have learnt from what we had to go through March through to July, August, and all the protocols are there. We've had them signed off again by DIA and Ministry of Health, Work and Safety, all the right things. So it's just a matter of putting those protocols back out. They all, if anyone doesn't understand them, go to HRNZ website. Everything's there for your consumption. Just use it, don't abuse it, and make sure you follow the rules. We'll get there.
We had a wonderful day on Sunday. New Zealand Bloodstock's third sojourn in the sales of standardbreds here in this country, and for so many of the vendors, it couldn't have gone much better.
No, I'd have to say, and I will say, well done to NZB. It has lifted every year, but this was absolutely outstanding. I was a bit worried, I'll tell you, Greg, I was there for parade, I was a bit worried, I didn't think there was enough people around. But what it was is the parade was on a Saturday, people are still at home with their children and doing family stuff, but when it come to the big day on Sunday, they all turned up. And the numbers just speak for yourself. You know yourself, it's 20% up. It was 51 to 55, depending who you're listening to on percentage. Fillies, right on up to 60. I mean, they're great numbers. So your middle just came up. Your top was still there, but your middle came up, and that's where we need to. That's where most people buy. So now we've got a spread of good horses across everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing them on the racetrack.
Right. The first thing that most people will be saying, though, is if we're paying an average of $51,000 for these horses, surely we've got to race for more. That's part of your challenge. And when we see the results over the Christmas period turnover-wise, the participants are saying, will we see any more money?
Yeah, and that's the number one question, because number two on my list, because I'll tell you what number one is very shortly, number two on my list is the funding and the distributions. So that's been going on for now a year since everything changed with the Act and so forth. So now we've got to work out what percentage we get. Now, what everyone has to understand is it doesn't matter where the money comes from. So if it comes from harness, it comes from the dogs, it comes from the gallops, or it comes from sport, it goes into the consolidated fund. And then it's shared on a percentage level that's negotiated. So great that we're contributing, and we need that. But the whole industry needs it, and I'm talking about the racing industry needs that. We need the other two codes to be just as successful as we are, so that we all get a share of the cake, not just one place. So I'll be representing us in those discussions, and believe me, we'll be going hard to get more than we've get today.
Whilst we'd love to see stakes go higher, and Addington, coincidentally, have only recently had another stake increase, we have to put some money away, Gary, because it's been a real issue and clearly has been exaggerated by COVID. So we've got to bank some, don't we?
Yeah, we are, though, and we all recognise that. When I walked in the door, they'd already made that decision, and there wasn't a lot left in the chest, I can tell you. So we're top slicing 2% of every race meeting, goes back into a reserve fund, and we have a goal within the next few years to get that up to a level of a few $1 million. We're around the 300,000 mark at the moment. That's all we've got so we've got to get it up. If we have another major like COVID, we don't have our sport can't get funded, and we are the people that have to keep it going. So the board's made that decision, and it's been ratified by the clubs. So it's the right decision, Greg, and will hold us in the right stead should there be another issue going forward.
Another area that I wanted to touch on was a change at the top of our training ranks, and the All-Stars have made a significant change. Mark and Natalie stepping back and Hayden Cullen taking over. I know you're on top of this, but just update us in terms of the colours situation and whether Hayden will have the horses racing in his colours.
Okay, so I talked to Hayden last Friday here at Addington. He's already picked his colours, he's already getting them made, and so we will see a change, and I asked him to speed it up, please.
Gary, you mentioned earlier on your number one issue in the sport. You better elaborate on that.
Yeah, so this ear being blocked went into the brain. Number one issue. We need a code of conduct, and we need it urgently. We've got a lot of people out there that don't really know how they need to act, the way they need to act, and responsibly. Now, we're a sport, Greg, and there's three pillars to sports: fair play, integrity, and doing your best. And I struggle with that we're doing all of those three at the moment. I'm worried about integrity, really worried about integrity. My first 4 weeks, I had a number of phone calls from journalists for things that are going wrong with some of our participants. And I'm not going to elaborate on that. People know where we are with that. But I want to make it very clear to everybody that I'm going to clean this sport up. It's my passion, it's my sport, I'm invested in it as a breeder and an owner, and so have a lot of other people. Now, cycling went through this years ago, and then they brought in David from WADA, and we cleaned it up. Well, that's what I'm going to concentrate on. So we will have a code of conduct. Licensees will have to sign up to it, and will have to behave to it. If they don't, they'll lose their licence. I can't be any more straight up with people than that. We have to get our game and our act right. We have to act like a sport. We have professional sports people in the game, and they have to act like professional sports people. Look at rugby, look at soccer, look at tennis, look at them all. The way that they act is the way we have to act. And that has to happen now.
Well, the bottom line is they're all competitors. Everyone's fighting for the entertainment dollar, and therefore we have to be leading the way in terms of the way we act and the integrity of the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't want to go too far. It's not hundreds and hundreds of people. It's a couple of handfuls across our nation that we just got to make sure they understand it. Now, what we also have to do, Greg, is make sure we educate and communicate to people. Now, one thing we're not good at is we can blame people and they're not doing the right thing, but we don't go then and put our arms around them and bring them in and have a conversation, put them through some extra training. I went and sat at a cadets class the other week just to find out what they did. And some of those cadets came in there and they think it's their right to have a licence. No, it's a privilege to have a licence. So what we have to do is make sure that we're giving them the right rules, teaching them the right way, giving them the opportunities, but staying with them. Now, I'm not sure how many of them will have financial support, as in understanding what to do running a business. It's those type of things I don't see that we do, and I see that as HRN's issue. So HRNZ has to come up with a plan and a program to help people get through that.
And a big thank you there to Gary Woodham. Next week we'll talk about potentially the changing calendar following Harness Racing Australia and what they've done. We'll talk about wagering, some restriction discussion there as well, and an integrity update too. And I also touched on the current North Island issue around horse numbers, particularly when Alexandra Park and Cambridge do go back to back. All right, let's have a look at a map and what's happening around this nation for you harness racing wise this week. Alexandra Park, very good program there, 9 races just after 6 o'clock, a couple of young gun heats, and of course we'll look forward to seeing those juveniles on the track. Addington Raceway have the three-year-old fillies going head-to-head in the Lone Star, the listed Lone Star size stakes, and looking forward to that contest too. Rangiora race on Saturday, 11 races there, just after 12 o'clock. The start time for that on the meeting code of 7. Winton have a Southern Belle Speed Series. It's always been a good series that. They've got 9 races there and they start just after 12 o'clock on Sunday. Got some Manawatu action on Tuesday, right around 4 o'clock with 4 races from there. And also we have Invercargill, 10 races starting at 2:57 there, so looking forward to that action. Just back to that 3-year-old fillies. Time Up the Hill Want to Play With Me, Michael, drawn alongside each other. Should make for a good contest between those two.
Yeah, again, I think this is a bunch of horses, Greg, who haven't sorted themselves out. That's good fun. It's a punter's race because it's not a case of, well, they'll sort of turn up and win. Time Up the Hill's a horse I really like, so yeah, interested to see how this all shakes out as we're getting closer to the Oaks. Alexandra Park's got a beautiful meeting. Bolt for Brilliance should be winning there, and Aladdin is back and he's heading towards the Derby up against Luke Johns. So a little mini Derby trial there in the middle of the program.
All right, let's have a look at some of the hits and misses from last week with the TAB, and a big thank you to Matthew Peden putting these together for us once again. Gold Chain bolted in the first race. Colin DeFilippi for Bob Butt, $8 the price there. Nice shopping, couple of thousand on Muscle Mountain, and Better Fly was a winner at Meffin on Sunday with a $4,000 play there. Ragazzo Mac I don't know which one to call it, but either way, he's a pretty good horse. He just got beaten, so that was unlucky there. You'd rather I called it first. And of course, Self Assured, 6,000 there at $1.60 coming unstuck. Ahoka Creed, a decent bet on him in the Cardigan Bay, Michael, and Costello David, the Darren Keese trained runner. Again, a decent play on him, shortening him up considerably in that Diamond Creek Derby. So good to get the hits and misses there. Samantha Otley achieved what only one other female driver has been able to achieve, of course, in Nikki Chilcott. Win number 500 for her, Michael, on the track where she drove her first winner. This was on Deceptively. Of course, she drove Nigel Paul to win first up on her birthday, first driving day for her mother. And, well, she drives very well, Samantha, and now she's marching her way to potentially becoming the first ever to 1,000 wins. I know it seems like a long way off, but she's only 148 behind Nikki Chilcott, who doesn't drive as often these days.
A hell of a body of work, isn't it, for Samantha? Just without being rude, Greg, how old would Samantha be? I would have thought she might only be 26, 28?
Yep, about, I'm going to say 26, and on the side of caution there, Michael. There she is leading the team deal, and $10,000 raised already, so a pretty big start there. But yeah, she's very talented. Horses clearly run for her, and pretty special that she was able to do it at the Oamaru track there.
Yeah, look, it is. It's as I said, it's a remarkable body of work. She's only been driving for 10 years or something like that, and she's driven that many winners, and it's only going to take her 10 years at the same progress level to drive 1,000. So, look, she's a very likeable, humble, nice person to be around. So, look, if she becomes a member of the 1,000 Win Club, it's a huge deal for us at a time when Australian harness racing has so many leading female drivers, and we're seeing Australian jockeys like Jamie Lee Carr now leading premierships, and of course Danielle Johnson's going to win the galloping premiership here by 100. So it's a pretty cool time for females in racing, and long may it continue.
Michael, Door Contracting may well be withdrawing their sponsorship if we don't start delivering some winners in the best bet section. So therefore, let's go with them. And Ronnie Dorr bought a couple of horses at the yearling sale. So, and I know he's pretty keen to be active in Christchurch as well. Best bet for you this week?
I reckon it's close to a moral. Aladdin, Alexandra Park. Spoke to Peter Blanchard, improved on last week when it raced against the big dogs like Krug and Co. Should lead. Luke John's the danger, but I think he has to go back at the start because he's a funny horse early doors, and Jack Ryan's also the other danger, and he's drawn wide. Aladdin, let's not forget he sat parked and ran third in the Sire Stakes final, set in the trail in the Sale Series pace. He's heading toward the Derby, close to a good thing at Alexandra Park.
Yeah, well, I've gone with Gil Favour from the Paul Nairn barn, racing really well, overdue to get another win, drawn barrier 1, should be in the fight throughout. I nearly went with Enchante off the back of her Group 1 placing, but I reckon Rock and Roll Rod might take some catching in that race. So, yep, happy to be with Gil Favour. Michael, we'll look forward to the action, both sides of the Tasman over the weekend, and then march to the Agricultural Park here in Christchurch for days 2, 3 and 4 of the New Zealand Bloodstock sales.
Yeah, everybody just keep on nzbstandardbred.co.nz for updates. If you want to buy remotely, make sure you register. Make sure you register. There's going to be more competition in Christchurch than there was in Auckland. A lot of people have bullets still left in the gun, Greg. It's going to be a really busy sale. You're hosting the coverage, obviously. So what time do you kick off, Gregory? For people who want to watch it online, is it 2:30ish on Monday?
For the trotters, although I did see that graphic before said the trotters were selling at 1 o'clock, but I'm pretty sure it was 2:30 into 3. But again, check out that website, and we'll be half an hour before each sale day doing a preview and then a half-hour review show of each and every day. So look forward to that. That's been your box seat for another week. On behalf of Michael, myself, and our stable of sponsors, a big thank you to them, because without them, we simply would not be here. Michael and I will see you in 7 days' time.